At the end of the last video, even though I'd already submitted it with all the requirements, I showed you how you can merge it all into one layer, holding down Option and saying Layer Merge Visible, and then how you can clean it all up by adding a black color overlay over all the remaining pixels. And we use the magic wand to erase all the whites. The other benefit of this is now like a clean cookie cutter. And maybe I don't want it in black. Maybe I want to cut that shape out like Arturo Herrera would cut his composite line art out of felt or out of fabric. So what I'm going to look for is Popeye bedspread in a Google image search. So I'm going to go to Images, and then I'm going to go to Tools, and I'm just going to look for large. I'm not going to limit it to black and white because I want color for this. So this gives me some fabrics, right? So it gives me this one. I'm going to click on it. It's nice and large. I'm going to open image in new tab, inspect it. That'll work. I'm going to save that to the desktop. Move it to the middle here. It's the first color I have for this assignment. This is optional. I go back. I'm going to find another one. See if there's something a little different, like these old comic strips. Open link and open image in new tab. And I can do this with any kind of colored texture. And yeah, that looks okay. Okay, now I'm going to go back to Photoshop and I'm going to drag and drop these in. So first I'll take the old comic strip. And it drags in as a smart object. And the first thing I'm going to do is hold down Shift and kind of stretch it to cover up my jumble. And maybe I tilt it a little bit. Maybe I flip it because there's text in there. I don't want it to be readable. Right? But you see, it fits the entirety. It's like wrapping paper for my jumble. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the magic wand to select the empty space around my jumble. Remember, contiguous is turned off. The tolerance is 32. It's a point sample. That's how we're using the magic wand for this. Then I'm going to say select inverse. And that will swap the selection. So now it's selecting only my black shapes. Next, I'm going to turn on the color layer, which is still a smart object. And you can see that my selection of only the black shapes is still showing. And now to cut it out, I'm going to use a new command that we're going to learn over and over again, which is duplicate. Duplicate will make a perfect copy on a new layer on top of any layer or any selection that you've made. So that command to duplicate is Command J. Command J, as in juice, duplicates. The problem was, I duplicated, but you see how I was selected on this layer? So it duplicated my black lines. What I want to do is select this layer. The selection's still there. Hit Command J, and now it duplicates. But if I turn off that background that I duplicated from, it's like cutting it out of the paper. Okay. Now I'm going to do that same thing again with this other color, which is the bedspread. So I'm going to drag and drop the bedspread on. This time, it's already spread out pretty well. I'm not going to mess with it. But I'm going to go to the layer of my combined jumble, select the empty space. We've got to be selecting on it. Remember, you can only affect the layer you select. Then go to Select Inverse. Then turn it off. Turn on the color layer. Select it. And then hit Command J to duplicate from it. And then turn it off. And you'll see that cut out. Now I have this cut out and this cut out. And I'll turn on a white background so you can see it. And just like we did with our avatars, playing with those pixels last week, I can blend them together. So I'm going to take the opacity of this one, take it down a bit, and maybe play with a different blending mode. So I get something original from the two. Pin light works pretty well. And if I want it to be a little bit stronger, I can even add a layer style to it. So instead of a color overlay layer style, right, I could try something like a stroke around it, which will outline all of those pixels. And I can do that at full opacity. Or I could do it really small, so it's a little sharper, right? I can also do things like add a drop shadow to it. So we're going to learn more about these layer styles. It's often how we customize things like type design or logos. But now you see how it kind of looks like it's hanging and casting a shadow behind it. Especially if I take off the stroke. Let's make that stroke a little bit smaller. This is pretty high resolution. Right? And so maybe that's the Popeye jumble I want instead of this. And so I am going to save this as my Photoshop file. And because I've already named it, I can say save as and repeat all this stuff onto my computer, but it will ask if I want to replace it. And I do, because this is just an updated version. Because now this has a color version and a black version in it. So it's all in one PSD file. But if I want to put it onto Canvas and save it as an online file, I have to save it with a slightly different name. Because if you save a JPEG into the same place as the file with the same name, it will replace it, right? So what do? I'm going to say File, Save As. I'm going to add to the name Color. And then I'm going to say, because I want a JPEG, I have to say Save a Copy. And now it will say Color, right? And save it as a JPEG to the desktop. Hit OK. Check my desktop. Here it is. Mark this also with orange. So this is an optional finishing technique, which I always like to do for this project because it's a lot easier to add color than people think once you have the clean black lines. So I find my post, and then I can edit it. And you can always edit your own posts, and you can see what everyone else is working on. I'm going to try to get them all to the same size as well. So there's my original post. So then I click on it. On those three dots, I say Edit. I hit Return. And I'm going to drag now my color JPEG in. And remember, you have until 11:59 to get something uploaded for this. And you don't need to have it be perfected. But if you want to keep playing with it, you can use Photo-P with your PSD file, but I'm going to label this optional color variation finishing technique. And I'll repeat, not required, but fun. And then save. So what should the size be? The size should be, if your browser, use Command plus or Command minus to make sure it's showing at 100%. Write your name and then make the width of your 8x10 file half of the distance of the discussion post window. And that way it will always fit this way when we view them. All right. That will be 5 videos. But before I'm done, I'm going to clean up my desktop. So this is what I do. I open up my master folder and I make a new folder by right-clicking, and I say exercise number 1, right? And then I drag all of that stuff from the desktop into it, especially my PSD and my online file formats, the orange and the greens. And then if you want to be a little extra organized, which is never a bad idea when it comes time to printing, you're going to make a new folder within your exercise 1 folder, and you're going to call that reference images or references. And I usually mark that red. And that's where all of these different random downloads go. Some of which I didn't even use. But those were the sources of compositing for this project. All right. And now we're ready for our next exercise. So I'll finish up this video and then we'll do our first presentation critique.